What's up? What's up? What's up? How's everybody doing? It's Big Cheds coming to you live. I just tried to play some music and apparently that didn't work. So just imagine you just listen to some beautiful music while you're waiting for me and Big Chonis. How you doing, Big Chonis, today? How you doing, buddy? Good. It is not Thursday, April 5th. Is that right? Isn't it Friday? Yeah, it's Friday. Yeah. Yeah, a little technical difficulty here, folks. Yeah, nothing to see. Nothing to see here, folks. Move right along. Folks, I am Big Cheds and coming to you live tonight. We want to give you guys a little perspective. You know, it's been a day since we've done an update and the market moves. It's been kind of moving sideways. We had a little pop here, so we thought that Big Cheese and I, Big Chonis, would give you guys a little update. Please follow him on Twitter at Big Chonis. I've asked him to change his background picture because I don't like the bull and the bear, because I feel like everybody does that. But anyway, I'm at Big Cheds. Find me on Twitter at Big Cheds. Check out the blog, chedstrading.blogspot.com. Of course, where you have the complete beginner's guide to cryptocurrency trading. And that's about it. What do you want to say, buddy? How you doing?
Just checking here if anybody can hear me. Let me just double check, make sure I'm on.
I mean, I can hear you. It doesn't mean I want to hear you, but I can hear you.
All right. Hold on 1 second here.
What's the chat say?
Oh, wow, my mic is way lower.
Okay. All right. Well, I can hear you okay, but that's through Skype. So you're going to go ahead and work in that. I'm going to go ahead and... Yeah. Yeah. Let's see where I've got you. But they can hear you, right? All right.
Nope, they cannot hear me.
All right. Try it now.
Just testing here. 1, 2, 3. Trying to get the mic all good here. 1 second here.
You know what? I think I know why we didn't have music before. I fixed that. So this is already...
Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go.
It's already our best show ever. It's already the best show ever.
It sounds perfect now. It sounds beautiful.
It's the best show ever, guys. So anyway, you know, Bitcoin's 24/7 market, guys. So you got to be ready. You know, even if it's a Friday night, if you're in I don't know, Japan or somewhere else, maybe it's Saturday morning. Friday night for us right now, and we're just trying to figure out what's going on. How do you feel about the strength of this move that just happened, Big Chonis? What do you think?
Well, you know, we've been watching this thing all day. It's been incredibly sideways all day long. We had this kind of dip earlier, and then it just shot right back up. That was kind of an interesting moment there, kind of almost a sign that, like, you know what, this was setting up for something. But and then it kind of had a nice little pop there. You know, it was basically was 660 to 680, so almost $250 there in about 15 minutes. Very nice move there. Volume though super low in the follow through. It's something that's kind of interesting there. I thought this was kind of like a bear pennant, a smaller one earlier in the day, and then this move kind of negated that. But as I kind of zoomed out more, I almost felt, oh, it's actually much larger bear pennant. I feel that we're still in here. So right now where it is, that prediction of mine is still intact. However, if it bursts out again and we basically touched almost 7,000, that would kind of negate that, and we could be on some little uptrend here, but I highly doubt that just based on the lack of follow through volume we're seeing.
How highly do you doubt it? How highly?
Very highly, just because it makes no sense to go higher at this point. Like, what would induce the buyers here based on this low follow through? Can't imagine there's a value being seen here at this price point.
So if it's a bear pennant, then like what level and what method will like negate that, right? Like what price? Is it a close? Is it a candle wick, a shadow? You know, how are you determining if that bearish setup, that bearish pennant, how are you determining, and I'm going to go ahead and bring that on the screen, how are you determining if that is negated, Big Chonis?
On the uptrend, you mean? Basically, what would have to happen is
the bear pennant. Yeah, how are you determining if that fails? If that bearish setup fails, what's your method?
That it breaks down.
Yeah. How do we? If I'm like an average noob, if I'm like Joe Piscopone from Kentucky, how am I determining if it breaks down? If the bear pennant breaks down, right?
Well, it's basically setting in kind of a very distinct bottom there, and if it breaks that on the down, that's what's going to happen there. But here's where we're at right now. there's no follow through right now on the volume. So either it's setting up for some sort of a next like impulse wave here, that it just seems, frankly, some sort of like algo driven movements we're seeing here, just because of the crazy like spontaneity of it. You know, super low volume for hours, then right at 9 p.m. they just decide to just, you know, pump it. And, you know, I was watching as it happened there. Every time there was a lot of strength there, I saw some big lots sold into it. You know, some big lots of like 40 or 50 Bitcoin at one moment sold into that strength there. So I'm sure a lot of people took that advantage to kind of sell, potentially liquidate a little bit more Bitcoin at a little higher price there, while they saw they could sell into strength.
I mean, that's smart. You always want to be selling into strength as a general rule. That's a great point. I think a lot of times people get into trouble, Big Chonis, is that they miss the top and then they end up selling into weakness. And what happens there is you kind of have like a compounding effect, right? So you gotta, you know, you want to train yourself. There's a couple few, as they say, a couple few rules you want to train yourself on. Like one of them is you want to always ask yourself, are you buying the news or are you buying the rumor? Right? That's something that you want to think about. You want to always be selling into strength and buying the weakness. You know, that's another one. So you're making a great point. You know, I'm trying to see, Big Chonis and this Big Cheds. Did we have any clues here on these candlesticks? I mean, maybe. But you never really know, man, until it happens. I mean, we have this long-legged doji. We have a couple hammers here and a couple dojis. I'm looking at the 4-hour of Bitcoin, Big Chonis. You know, we had these dojis, we had these hammers, and it's like, you know, maybe it could bounce, but the volume just wasn't there. You want to just walk us through the depth chart so we can just get a feeling for what we're looking at right now?
Sure. You want to pull up the GDAX?
Yeah. Where are we going? Ethereum, Bitcoin, obviously Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's start with Bitcoin. I've been, you know, let's. I know you don't want to do this, but let's do the 5-minute, just because it's one I've been looking at in the past, just to kind of get a sense of, like, you know, if this is a real kind of follow through move here or not. And, you know, the first thing that sticks out is, you know, that was a nice little volume spike there for sure. Brought in some nice money there and a little pump there. But the volume's been like literally anemic all through the 10 p.m. hour there.
Yeah, but we didn't have the follow-up sell volume, which would be a warning sign. So maybe there wasn't follow-up bull volume, but we surely didn't have the follow-up sell volume, which would be a warning sign, right?
Well, that's what's in, you know, basically you have all this sideways action now. So is this going to bring in, you know, buyers? Is this going to make them think like, oh, we're putting in another leg here? It just, like, they could have kept almost a more methodical rise versus kind of this pump there, because the money was right there. Like, that was where it happened. And just by watching how it kind of played out and seeing a lot of the dumps that took place while the strength and the money flow was there, you know, with that second kind of push there, which had similar volume but only half the bar, you know. So that was kind of interesting there. You know, almost the volume was exactly the same in that 5-minute spurt, but the size of the candle was almost half the previous one. So I find that kind of interesting too. The depth chart, if you want to zoom all the way out there, you know, still get a sense of kind of where the market is. See how the short-term market there, it's actually slightly turned. It was much more flattened. There's now a little more. I don't even want to use the word bullishness. It's just a little more of a battle, I guess you could say. There's kind of a bare wall there, kind of trying to prevent this from moving any higher. It's pretty strong. You know, I can't imagine how we would break through 7,000 now, just based on what we've seen over the past few days. So it's kind of how I see the depth chart right now.
Well, hold on. Are you factoring in Soros?
Well, you know, he's a big player in all this, right? Isn't that what they're saying?
Well, didn't he take down the whole the currency of what was it, the Republic of Gibraltar back in 1905?
I think it was the British pound in '91 or something, but yeah, that apparently is something going on there, right?
Yeah, I mean, just all joking aside, if anything, you know, more institutional money, larger players is good. But I don't think that, you know, I don't think anybody should make a decision tonight based on what Soros may or may not be doing. That seems like just a distraction. or maybe just something people do when they're bored because there's nothing going on. How does the depth chart look on Litecoin, Big Jonas?
Let's pull up Litecoin here, take a peek.
I'm at $1 right now. Do you want me to change that to like a nickel or a quarter or a dime? Rather?
Well, the thing with Litecoin is that because it's such a you can get a lot more volume in this one in a very short amount of time because of its price point. So in terms of the order book, I don't really look at that too much. The depth chart really is kind of what I've been watching for a while. It's slightly less bearish than it's been in the past couple days, that's for sure. There's still that kind of battle that will be fought at around the $100 range there. Still see that.
Yeah.
It's a fight. It's kind of an equal fight right now, but the volume basically still makes me lean towards this bearish sentiment here. If we're going to get some sort of a push here, it just seems like you would see more of a induce volume that, maybe it's about to happen. Maybe it's there. Maybe in a few hours from now in the middle of the night in at least the eastern part of the world, there'll be, or I guess it's the western part of the world, there'll be some sort of a volume come in because, at 2 a.m. on the east coast of the United States last night, which would have been 11 p.m. West Coast, that was this huge dump that took place in Bitcoin last night. I remember very clearly because it happened to be up to that hour. And, so these things happen at specific times. This evening, the 9 p.m., volume pop was what brought us this candle here. So, this is playing out here in a low volume situation, which means you can have these spikes with not a lot of volume. You can have, several $100 or with Litecoin, several dollar spikes in a very short amount of time in these low volume environments.
So how are you playing Litecoin right now?
I'm not trading it. I mean, there's been so many little like $4 or $5 swings the past few days that it would have been tempting in hindsight, obviously. But, I'm just waiting for a better moment, a better trade, opportunity. And what that would consist of is, kind of being much more of an oversold situation. We saw that a week ago when the RSI dropped below that kind of barrier of oversoldness for the first time in quite a while. And that was at that moment a very nice buying opportunity when it bottomed at 109 and shot up to like 127, I believe, in a very fast impulse wave there. Gave a lot of that back, most of that back, almost most of that back, and then set up another bounce opportunity there. But at that moment, that was a situation where it was such a great, risk versus reward opportunity based on a lot of oversold indicators. We're kind of resetting the chart now to see if we're going to allow ourselves to kind of reset what's happening here. So on the 4 hour, you're basically seeing it's trying to reset. It happened very oversold for several days there. It's kind of interesting there. I was looking at that and I was like, wow, at some point this is kind of have to move because it's been so pegged off for several days. And it's been a while since Litecoin had been pegged off that low for several days. And every time it had been, it did bounce. The OBV was rising slightly as well, very so slightly. So that's interesting that it's reset, but it hasn't reset so that it can basically head back down again. The daily suggests it might have a little bit more. It's kind of inconclusive right now. It's still kind of crossing over exactly right now. But for me at this point, the volume is still going to be my indicator until I see the volume I want to see for some sort of confidence, I guess, in this price point here.
Yeah.
I'm still seeing it heading down to kind of test that $100 range.
Yeah, I mean, I have it on the 4 hour. I'm using the volume by price indicator, which I've just recently added back to my setup. I used to use it in another life, on a different, on stockcharts.com. And I like volume by price. It's over here. It's a histogram, and it shows you kind of just where volume is, and it shows you the strength of each level. I think I zoomed out a little bit, and it basically told me that we have quite a bit of volume at $100, Big Chonis. Where I drew this line. So that's a level you kind of want to be paying attention to, this $100 level. So,
Cheds, I'm reminded of like right around
right there. Yep, $100. I mean, it's obvious.
Right around towards the end of the year, where where I actually got a lot of my some of my first or my second actually entry into Litecoin, was right around that $94 to $100 range. I remember very clearly. I was thinking about, wow, what would be interesting if Litecoin ever broke $100?
Yeah.
And then within weeks of me thinking about that, it actually
You
happened.
did.
I know
Do you
for a lot
remember? Do you remember back in Thanksgiving? It was like what, $75,
about that, yes.
and then it went to like 104, and we're like, oh man, 125 would be crazy. 125, we're like, okay, now 100's the floor, right? Like we're calling floors before it's a floor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like, now 200's the floor, and it's like, man, you don't know. We don't know anything. You always think you know something, but doesn't it always teach you, my friend? And this is Big Cheds. Big Chonis, doesn't it always teach you kind of in retrospect that you really knew nothing, even though you thought you did?
It's all very interesting because it's when you actually enter the actual event of what happened there, which was that parabolic move. You know, we got into it, Litecoin, towards the very end of the beginning of the parabolic move, and a lot of people were only getting into Litecoin, you know, after the move had started. Others that we, you know, friends of ours have been in it for several years, or at least a year, where it was in the teens and early 20s, and had an interesting move when it hit $90 very quickly and gave a lot of that back, basically bottoming out to like $35 and then slowly climbing back into the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And that's kind of where I remember it right before New Year's. And now we're getting so close back to that area again. You know, it's like, I can't believe we ran to $400+.
Yeah.
And here we are back here, and I feel that move, all the energy that was created by that parabolic move that brought Litecoin to almost $420, which is an area I'm really, you know, a fan of. That energy is gone, and what's happening now is we're beginning to create this next phase of Litecoin here, which is, you know, we have to bottom out at some point to create some sort of a new base and a new momentum. And Bitcoin is doing the same thing through the next several, you know, who knows, weeks, months, as this happens, and we see how it plays out. But it has to create kind of a new market momentum if we ever want to see those highs and then much higher again.
I mean, we need a hard floor. I mean, we're in a downtrend. Same with Bitcoin and Litecoin. We got to start reversing at some point. I mean, there's clearly opportunities for trading. You know, but if you use volume by price, my friend. You know, even Litecoin tells us there's a lot of loading at like $50, right? 50, $60. So you got people who loaded, you know, a lot loaded up to the gills back at $50, $60, and you know, and then kind of everybody else came in after Thanksgiving. So we have to, we got to put in a hard floor. Maybe it's 100 here, but Bitcoin, you know, Litecoin's waiting on Bitcoin. Let's talk about Ethereum real quick.
Sure.
As well, I'm going to go ahead and clear my chart real quick. So we're looking at Ethereum. Where are we at right now? We're still under 400, which is that key level we talked about. And you and I, Big Chonis, we've talked about, what, 350 as kind of a critical a nut bottom level. Is that what we decided on Ethereum?
Well, you know, Ethereum seems to travel in 25s and 50s. So, you know, it's at 380, 375 is the support. You know, 400 is a resistance. 350, you know, will be a support, or at least its next support at some point. We haven't really gotten there yet at this kind of downtrend there. You know, the rate of the downtrend is kind of leveled out. That's a positive thing. The 4-hour has kind of, you know, moved back up from a really oversold standpoint. It's a positive thing. The daily, you know, is kind of slowed down from being a little too overbought, which is, you know, a positive thing. But it's still in this downtrend there. The volume is still, you know, very suspect, and you know, it had the biggest parabolic move out of the big three there.
Yeah.
So I still feel there's a suggestion to that it has much more of a decline ahead of it. The thing is, though, and you're kind of talking about this about Litecoin and its $50 range, is you're basically arguing, you know, is there a super floor? No matter what, does Litecoin become ridiculously that just seems like a good bargain, you know, at a certain point, and there is a price for that with all three.
Hold on. You made a great point to me the other day when we were at the strip club, and in between lap dances, You said basically if Litecoin drops under 100, right? Every dollar under 100 is free money. It was the point you were making, right? You remember that?
Yes, on the first bounce, under 100. So I feel that if it breaks 100, there will be some sort of a bottom, rather fast. I don't know how fast it'll be, but it won't be that long. And then it will retest 100 again and probably break through it on the up to a certain point, maybe back to 105, maybe back to 110, maybe a little higher. I don't know. But the very first time it breaks 100, so the farther below 99, 98, 95, if it even can reach there on the first dip below, let's kind of shoot up again and try and retest 100 and see how strong that resistance of 100 has now become.
Right,
which
and we
has been a
agreed it would
support
be
for so long.
and we agreed it wouldn't be resistance.
Well, that's what it's going to test. It's going to test that. It's going to basically see, is this a resistance level now?
But there's no way 100 would hold as resistance on Litecoin.
On the first attempt, I agree. And that's why I think it will break and break and go to, I don't know, 105 to where it is 112 to 117 potentially, where it's been the past couple days there as kind of the new ceiling. But again, that's also putting in, a lower high. So I still feel it's basically the ceiling is starting to get lower and lower, and the floor is starting to get lower and lower.
But we're oversold. We're nice and oversold. We got RSI almost sub 30. On balance volume's kind of hanging in there. There's almost a bullish divergence on the on balance volume of Litecoin daily, Big Chonis. If you look at kind of how little we've given up on the on balance volume compared to the price, doesn't that seem a little bit of a bullish divergence?
A little bit. It's true.
Am I reaching here, or are you with me?
Sideways action, not much happening here. It's easy to reach.
So, I mean, that's Litecoin. What do we have for volume here? Big Chonis and Bitcoin. We got our market caps here at 257. Oh, man. This is like over, what, 500 or 600? It feels like just yesterday, doesn't it?
I was looking to see if we were going to break the $4 billion 24-hour volume because it didn't seem like we were going to.
Wow.
But we didn't. We put in an official 3.7 billion on the April 6th price action and a market cap of 115 billion, which is the lowest of the year.
Lowest of the 52-week year, or lowest of calendar year?
The calendar year.
Wow. What on earth? 3.7, 3.8. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? How do you interpret that?
It means that, at least yesterday, there wasn't a lot of money coming in.
There's no catalyst. There's just people are kind of at logheads about what to do.
Either they're seeing this as, oh, it's stabilized, it's found a stable floor, maybe that will induce some buying up, some buyers into the market. There seems to be some price pressure, right now. It's funny too, because I did a tweet earlier about how the shorts were loading up, it seemed, and this could be just a really nasty short squeeze happening here.
What? Short squeeze? Let's take a look at BTC shorts. What are you seeing here? On like the 1 hour. On like the 1 hour.
This actually could be pretty interesting here. Let's see.
Shorts look like they're going to pick up here. They had kind of dropped off, and they're getting ready to pick up here. With this recent price boost. Stochastics reset. You can see the RSI leveling off in the 1 hour. So shorts are about to pick up here. Is what I'm saying.
They had broken out this morning to an all-time high price level.
Yeah.
And then you're right. Within the past, like hour or two, they definitely topped off and they're starting to liquidate slightly. It's interesting though. Yeah, they are liquidating, but they're not showing incredible rush out the door, you would say, in terms of the price action that you're seeing here. I still keep seeing low volume, and I still keep seeing a lot of coins sold into this strength here. Even though the bid still keeps getting stacked up with buying pressure, it just seems to get stopped on, every so often by, a nice liquidation. That's why you're kind of seeing this sideways volume here. just trying to see. I don't know. I think this is still a trap. You know, I think this is
I think it's going down. I mean, I think we've peaked here briefly. We have a doji on the. I'm looking at the 1 hour, Big Chonis. We have this nice green candle. Follow up doji showing indecision. We do have a smaller. It is notable that there's a smaller range. A couple things. We have the big, beautiful green candle from 2 hours ago, obviously, and we have this doji. It didn't give back a lot of the gains, so that's bullish. And there is a really tight, small range here near the top of the channel. That's pretty bullish. But we're stalling. We're still stalling a little bit. So I guess you could continue with maybe a couple more hours of sideways. But I'm looking at the BTC USD longs. Right now, it looks a little bit overheated. It looks due for a pullback. Look at the RSI on the BTC USD longs, Big Chonis. RSI now is 75.
Mm-hmm.
And the shorts look like they're ready to rebound here. So I'm just guessing that this is going to kind of pull back a little bit. You know, maybe I'm a cynic. Maybe just a grumpy old man over here. But I don't have a lot of strength. It sounds like we're green, that there's not a lot of confidence in this latest bounce here.
Yeah, you just can't assume that this will bring in a lot of buying pressure, at least following through to today. It could remain sideways for a while, but it could definitely suck in a lot of people to create an opportunity to liquidate a lot of coins in the market, which I feel is the environment that we're still in right now.
All right, so we'll have to keep an eye on this for tomorrow. You know, I think a lot of people are just in the macro, in the bigger picture, a lot of people are expecting another flush. They want to see some type of a retest of our recent lows of that 5,800 area. They want to see a retest of the psychological area at 6,000. But, you know, just when people are expecting one thing, the market will go ahead and do another. So maybe we never test 6. Maybe we never test 58. So, you know, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, Cheds, if you if you go to the Litecoin chart there,
Mm-hmm.
and if you look at the 15-minute,
Mm-hmm.
and you think about, you know, the two kind of almost a tweezer top it put in on those candles there, those recent 15-minute candles there.
Yeah.
They kind of set that the kind of tone there.
It's a falling cloud cover. That's a bearish cloud cover.
That's
setup.
kind of how I saw it too, and the volume is suggesting that's kind of how maybe the market is seeing it as well.
Let me go ahead and open this up here for the people. Oh, it's not opening up. Let's open it up there, and here we go. That's a dark cloud cover. So that is, in theory, a bearish sign back here after this peak, but you have to see how it plays out. So, yeah, you know, it's still a no trade zone for me. I think you're probably in the same position, no trade zone right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in the order book that's suggesting that there's any either new money coming in or any significant money here. In terms of, you know, that this is a move to basically a much higher move here. You know, we've been in the 6s for, God, several days now, it seems. I'm talking about how the longer we're in a certain zone, the more used to it we are. We're still keep coming down in this area here. Everybody's expecting this, you know, this test of, you know, basically a double bottom, where we were basically at around 6,000 to 5,850, you know, area there back in early February. Everybody's kind of expecting that next double test of that to happen. I think that's kind of our best, you know, next nice bounce opportunity, because there will be a double test bounce to basically to see if there is a double bottom situation in play. That will basically set up a situation where it could basically succeed and put in a nice, you know, longer term bounce, or put in a very short term bounce and then fail by giving it all back, inducing a much larger dip that could actually create the actual bottom for this, you know, moment here, and a much larger, you know, nearer term uptrend. But all that, you know, has to be written based on what we're going to see in the next few days. I feel, you know, we're heading into the weekend here. Sundays we keep talking about are the weekend special in terms of crypto. Are more people at their computers able to, you know, trade or play around? Is there anything different about it on the weekends and the weekdays?
I don't like that. I just don't like these rules. You know, Thursday this, Monday that, Wednesday that. I feel like it's like, you know, I don't like having preconceptions about how things are supposed to be. You know, I mean, maybe you're right, 99 out of 100, but I just dislike that type of philosophy. Do you know what I'm saying?
There's all sorts of, well, again, that's one another, thing of information that we can continue to debate, basically, like trying to find pattern, trying to find order in the chaos that we see in terms of all the data that we're trying to digest, looking at flags and volume and indicators, trying to figure out which one is going to tell me what's about to happen next. And the answer is they all are. They all can add to that debate, that crunching of information that can give you kind of a perspective on what you think might happen next. And that's kind of what this is all about as we're allowed to talk it out.
I just don't see any strength on Bitcoin right now. I mean, I'm looking Big Chonis, and this is Big Cheds. I'm looking at the on-balance volume. I just see weakness still. I see a little move here, 4 hour. I just don't see any kind of pickup in the on-balance volume to kind of like, suggest any kind of strength here. So, maybe I rely on this too much, but the on-balance volume always, for me, has been a really good guide of strength and consistency in a move. So I'm going to keep a close eye on that. You want to say anything else before we wrap it up, or do you got anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I just want to do a quick update, I guess, on this Friday Eve. This is for me kind of a no trade zone. That's kind of what I'm seeing there. I'm seeing no conviction really either way here, although I am bearish overall. These moves here, I just don't really trust them. We've seen this kind of play out a couple times here. I can't imagine why this would bring in any kind of new money flow. And every time it seems, that's the thing. This is a great FOMO setup. Every time the order book seems like the bids are stacking up, they just start getting dumped into, and then they immediately disappear. I keep seeing that, which is telling me that this feels like a trap. It feels very like, let's just get some last bit of coin up in the high sixes before we can really tank this thing and see how low it can basically push until the market feels like it's way oversold. We talk about the indicators. The RSI on the daily is a great way to see where we're at. The stock RSI on the daily as well, and the 4 hour has been a really strong indicator about, where the market could be going. And then the trend lines we keep talking about, they also tell a story. So these are things that we kind of want to play with consistently. And then in terms of how everything is affecting the alts, I think each alt really is its own kind of individual story. And we'll see what happens and how that plays out over the weekend.
That was my man Big Chonis. You can find him on Twitter at Big Chonis, BIGCHONIS. You can find me on Twitter at Big Cheds. And at the blog, of course, chedstrading.blogspot.com, home of the complete beginner's guide to cryptocurrency trading, where you can answer all of your noob questions, or you can ask me on Twitter and I'll try to respond, or I'll probably just cut and paste a link to the blog. But in any case, I love you guys. I know Chonis loves you guys. We appreciate it. We're a family. You guys got to be careful out there. Don't overtrade. Make sure you kind of wait for your spots. Have a plan and stick to it. And, of course, never risk more than you can lose. Right, buddy?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. This is a long game. This is a marathon. You don't have to make the trade. There's many trades that can make it.
Yes.
That's how you have to think about this game.
All right, guys. Take care, and make sure to tip your waiters. Take care. Peace out.
Good night, everybody.